All right, hello. We are live for the Young Adult Booktube Awards, the final live show for the fantasy. This is the fantasy discussion. It's so bittersweet. This is the final live show, and we won't be back here again for another year, but I'm really excited to talk to you guys about all of these books. So first, I will introduce, we are talking about A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas, and Crooked Kingdom by Lee Bardugo. So just as a forewarning for everybody, all of these are sequels in a series. So for those of you who are watching, we will try our hardest not to spoil the books that were nominated, but the prior books in the series, it might be a little hard to not spoil those and actually discuss the books. So just as a forewarning for all of you viewers out there, we will not spoil these to the best of our ability, but we might spoil the earlier books in each series. So before we actually get started, I actually want to let you guys know about the links in the description. So first we have the all of the links for our wonderful judges, and you can find all those links below and definitely subscribe to them. And then we will, sorry, I just got a text message and I was like mind blank. And then also below is the viewer's choice link. So if you guys are wanting to give your opinion about which book you think should win the fantasy category, check out the link below for the viewer's choice, and that will end right before the end of the live show. So you guys have the rest of the live show to vote for who you guys think should win the viewer's choice. And the last link that I want to mention to you guys is the feedback. So this is the last live show of the awards, and if any of you guys want to give your feedback on what you think about the awards or how we can make it better for next year and all of those things, the link for that is down below as well. Watch the live show, and then after the live show is over, definitely check out that form and fill out so we can get your thoughts and try to make the awards better for next year. So I think that was everything. There were no more giveaways. All of the giveaway winners have been chosen. But we will definitely have lots more giveaways next year. So congratulations to everyone who won so far, and to the 3 winners for the giveaways that we're announcing today. But I don't have that to announce to you guys. So I guess I'll just go ahead and start with letting all of the judges introduce themselves. So we will start with Allie.
Hello, I am Allie, the little librarian, and I don't know what else you want me to introduce about myself other than that.
Sounds good to me. And then we have Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa from the channel City YA Books, and I'm a psycho from England.
And then Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan from Megan Precourt. I don't have an original booktube name.
And no, it's okay though. It took me like 2 years to think of my original booktube name, and it was like, it just has to be good timing, and it just has to kind of come to you. I feel like they're hard to come up with. My original booktube name was horrible. So
I remember it.
I don't want to talk about it. I mean, I liked it to begin with, but then it just didn't feel like me after a while. Anyway, and then last but not least, we have Trina.
Hey, I'm Trina, and my channel is Between Chapters.
Perfect. All right, so I think that's everything. If you guys have any questions, definitely let us know in the chat. If you guys have any questions or comments or things that you want to have the judges clarify about their opinions, definitely let us know over here, and I will be checking that sporadically throughout the live show. So like I said, we go in alphabetical order, and the very first book we're going to talk about is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. And first, we're going to go through kind of initial thoughts from the judges, what they rated it, and kind of just 1 or 2 word snippet about their thoughts about this book. So we will start with Allie.
For Akamath, I read this a while ago, but I really liked it. I feel like it's hard to compare it to the other books since I consider it more new adult than YA. So that's kind of hard to put it on the same scale as the rest, but I really liked it. My initial thoughts, from the first book, I didn't like the first book that much, but the second book definitely added to everything. I don't want to say too much more because then I get into spoilers.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And then Lisa, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, if anyone watched the retelling live show, they know that I love this book so much. For some reason, I adore this series. I love it.
Okay, perfect. And Megan?
I'm like Allie, I've read this a while ago, but I did really like it. I had issues with the first book, and I almost didn't even pick up the second one, and I did, and I really liked it. So, just leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah. And just for the viewers know, Megan, it sounds like she's just got a little bit of a problem with her headphones, but we tried to fix it and we really couldn't figure out anything to fix that. So I apologize about the kind of distortion in the sound for that, but there really wasn't much we could do. So I apologize, but it is what it is. And then we will go to Trina, your initial thoughts about Akamath.
I really enjoyed this book, and yeah, like Lisa said, she and I were both in the Retellings live show, so if you guys want to know like a whole separate set of opinions on the book, because things may get talked about differently, you guys can check that one out. But this was a book that I do believe has several problems with it, but I had a very deep personal connection with the way that it represented something that I have been through, so I really enjoyed this book.
All right, perfect. And so now let's get started with the discussion. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I did the same thing with the retellings category, because I just feel like with kind of like the controversy with the relationships in this story, and I kind of wanted to talk about the different relationships that we had in this story specifically. So not as much about the relationships from A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first book in this series, but if you guys have any specific thoughts that you wanted to talk about with the relationship in this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you would like to mention kind of the controversy that's going around this, if anyone wants to give their opinion on that, definitely feel free. We'll go ahead and start with Allie about your thoughts with the relationships in this story.
I was fine with all the relationships. I'm not paying attention to a lot of the controversies and stuff like that with it, but like I based it off of my own opinions. I like the relationships. I like the main ship of Feyre and Rhysand. Like that is like one of my OTPs, and I don't know. I really liked it. I thought the relationships were good.
Okay, fair enough. And Lisa?
As I said, and as me and Trina both spoke about a lot in the live show, I really like, personally, the relationship between Feyre and Rhysand. I think a lot of people now look for controversy, and while there was issues in this book, I think the overall kind of message in it was pretty good, and kind of the message to do with relationships overall as a whole was really good. But there was still those few little issues.
Yeah, totally. And Megan?
I, in the same as Allie, I didn't really get too much into the controversy. I see it with the first book, but we're talking about the second book, and I thought that the relationship was very well done in that one. Rhysand and Feyre, they're OTP and they're cute.
All right. And Trina?
I'm not exactly sure which part that you're referring to when you say controversy. Like, are you talking about abusive relationships?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, mostly. There is some people who kind of feel like, most of that controversy is around the first ship in the first book, but there were some people that I know did
still think.
Yeah, are a little bit uncomfortable with this relationship in this book.
So as for the abusive relationships, I have talked about this on my channel a lot. I have been through some abusive relationships that were very manipulative and unhealthy and toxic. And I was not really expecting this book to handle them on a deep level. And then I got into it, and literally this book made me cry so many times. It really impacted me. I felt like it was a mirror for some of the experiences that I have been through. You aren't always going to know that someone that you're in a relationship is an abuser. There may be red flags, or there may not be. There may be, and you've ignored them, or you're in a mind space where you were unable to see them. And I thought that the way that Feyre realized things was very realistic, and I really appreciated seeing that in a fantasy story, because a lot of times when a book does deal with manipulative or toxic relationships, it's like a contemporary issues book. And I love that this story, like that was just one part of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. And because that exists when more is going on in your life too. So to me, it was kind of like a healing experience. I saw part of myself in it, and I really connected to it. And I really appreciated that she could show a character who is very strong that has gone through that. And as for, I'm going to talk forever on this. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry.
I've expanded upon it more in like my reviews on my channel and stuff. So if you guys want to know more, you can go through that. As far as the second relationship still being problematic. It does have problems. I don't necessarily think that anything that happened in the book redeemed or excused what happened, but I think that it lets you understand how people can come to be in that situation from both sides of things.
Okay, fair enough.
It's realistic.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes.
Allie. If you had something else to.
It's more realistic that way. It's the way you actually see certain things like that with abuse, like the way that certain things were handled, even though there's still problems. That is real. That does happen. So it was nice to see it. Like I agree with Trina, in a fantasy setting.
Yeah, because it's definitely not something that you see a lot in fantasy settings, having those real world problems in relationships. It's usually like all these fantastical problems that they have, like killing the bad guy or, defeating this person or taking over the kingdom. It's like those fantasy problems you usually see. So having something that was a real life problem that real people deal with was a little refreshing, but I definitely do recognize some people that had problems with it, and I understand their point of views as well.
Right. And I definitely want to reiterate too, like what my experience is and what I connected with, that's valid for me, but it doesn't have to connect the exact same way with everybody else. So this book is not going to be reflective of what every single person that's been in that type of relationship has gone through, but it was reflective to me.
Okay. And something that I really, really loved about this story that we actually didn't get to talk a lot about in the retellings category, because we talked a lot about it being a retelling of Persephone and Hades, but I really want to talk about the world building that Sarah J. Maas puts into this story. I feel like she does a lot better with this series than with her other series that we're going to talk about later on in this live show. But I really love the world building and seeing the different parts of this. I don't remember exactly what the world is called, but like seeing.
I think.
What was it?
Corinthian?
Oh,
I think that's how you pronounce it. Corinthians.
Corinthian. Yeah, that makes sense. Excuse me. So I really wanted to talk about what you guys felt about seeing different parts of Corinthian, like the night court and all that stuff, and your thoughts on that. We will start with Allie. And again, it sounds like I'm picking on her, but I just go in order of the people that I see because it makes sense in my head. So I'm not picking on Allie, I swear. So we'll start with you, Allie.
Okay, so this is something that I really, really loved about this, because fairy books are my absolute fave. Like that's my realm of everything. So I was very picky on the world and how it was built, but I also love people's different versions of fairy worlds, and I really liked it. There was a few things that I had problems with like the actual fairies. With they don't have their certain ticks that I love about fairies, but overall the world was very good, and I love the different aspects of each courts and everything like that. So I thought she did a really good job with it. The only thing I would have changed is like fairies aren't supposed to be able to lie. They're, if you go into a fairyland and you eat their food and drink or whatever, you're not supposed to be able to leave. Like there's certain little ticks and things like that I wish she would have included, just because it would have added a little bit of that like extra like folklore behind it, but it was still really good though.
And that's a really interesting point that you make too, because at the beginning of ACOTAR, that was what was thought by the mortals in this world.
Yeah.
So when that came out that wasn't a thing, that fairies can actually lie, I was a little disappointed as well. But that more I feel like has to do with the first book. But that's a really good point.
Yeah, like they discredited, or she discredited that, and I was really sad because I was like, no, they can't. They're not supposed to be able to touch like cold iron. They're not supposed to be able to do this and that. And I was like, all right, it's her world though. So she just adapted it how she wanted to, but still I was a little sad that wasn't included.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Lisa?
I've even forgotten what the original question was. It was about the world building, yes?
About the world building, yes. Your thoughts about the world building and seeing the different parts of this, of Corinthia.
I loved the courts. I loved the setup of the courts. I loved all their little quirks and their parts. I loved the night court. I loved the court of nightmares, all of that. But going on about the fairies, I feel like a lot of writers will just use fairy in place of magical being at times.
Yes!
And I feel like, especially now I've got into later books in the Throne of Glass, I feel like Sarah J. Maas kind of was like, I want them to be magical, but I need to give them a name. I can't be bothered to make up a whole species name thingy, so I'm just going to go with fairies for now. And I think that's kind of what it feels like when I read this, but hey, I am a sucker for hot, sexy sexy fairies. It's a thing, okay? I am really a sucker for it. So these two books, like the minute I read Beauty and the Beast retelling with a hot fairy, I was like, and yes, I just fairies. But the
Fairies
world
are the
is
best.
amazing.
Fair enough. And Megan, your thoughts on the world building?
I'm pretty much along the lines as everybody else. I really love the court aspect, and I like that they are so distinct. You can tell all of them apart, and it's really cool. She does really good at world building. You feel like you're sucked into the world and you're there. I don't know as much about like fairy folklore, I guess, so I didn't catch up on some of those ticks, but I enjoyed the hot fairies too.
And everyone loves the hot fairies.
Mm-hmm. And Trina, anything you want to add?
I want to apologize. I don't know what's going on with my camera right now, but if it cuts in and out, hopefully you guys can still hear me.
We can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you.
What is happening with this? Well, with the world,
It was doing that at the last live show too, and we can still hear you perfectly, and it'll
I
come back
bet my
eventually.
laptop is just messed up.
Yeah. Well, we can definitely still hear you, so go ahead, and hopefully the video will get fixed.
As for the world building, I guess I'm the one that's going to oppose all of you guys. Of these 3 books that were nominated in this category, this is my least favorite in terms of the world and the world building. I do really love the different courts, the Fae courts that are in Prythian, which is like the main place. But they talk a lot about Hybern and the continent. And we've never seen the continent, and we've barely been to Hybern. And I don't really know like how they all play in together. And within Prythian, within the Fae courts, we've only seen like 2 or 3 of them, and I really just want to see more. So I think it's a very interesting setup world, but I don't think it has as large of a scope as I like want it to.
Yeah.
But saying that, there's going to be 6 books now, isn't there? So I feel like maybe she is keeping some. Like you meet a lot
she
of
could
new
definitely
worlds with the other
develop
series
more
of
as
hers.
it goes on.
So I think she doesn't want to show off too much already. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's not
that
like
would
one
be
of the adult
confidence.
fantasy where it's like info dumping everything on you in the first like 30 chapters, and you're like, I know this world better than I know mine.
Yeah, this is only the 2nd book in this series, whereas Empire of Storms is like the 5th or 6th book, if you count the prequels, and then even the Grisha, like she had the 3 Grisha books before Crooked Kingdom that set up that world. So this one is just kind of, behind a little bit, but it's fine.
Yeah, we just haven't gotten there yet. And I remember something kind of like really upset me about the Night Court. I don't know if I'm remembering this incorrectly because I read this forever ago, but I remember like Feyre woke up at the Night Court, like she was at the Night Court and it was daytime, and Rhysand was kind of just like, it's not nighttime all the time just because it's called the Night Court. And I was just like, why? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
because
just felt
it's
like
like, isn't it spring all the time in the spring court? So
Yes.
it should. I agree. I think that it should have always been.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, I remember that. And I was like, wait,
Everything got that.
what? Yeah, no, I thought about that too because like when they go to, wasn't it the summer court? Like
Yes.
it's like nice and warm and sunny. Like it's supposed to stay that way.
yeah.
So, I don't know.
And I remember Rhysand had said something to her like, we have to, just because we're in the Night Court, it doesn't mean that we don't like follow the rules of the like the rules of the galaxy. Like, when the sun is up, it's daytime. And I kind of get that. I feel like it was her way of saying, okay, well, I want the Night Court, so it's always nighttime. But wait, right next door is the day court, and then right below that are all the summer and spring court. So it's like, I guess she just couldn't. The way that I feel like it happened is she couldn't figure out how to make that work with like obviously there's a sun, and why doesn't the sun show in just this one part of the world? And so I don't know. I guess I just wish that was kind of a little bit more explained.
It is a book about fairies and magic, though, so she probably could have very easily explained away why it would always be night.
Mhm.
Magic.
Yeah.
It's magic.
It's a magical fairy land. She doesn't particularly need too much logic in her thoughts here.
Yeah, I just didn't understand why it was called it could have been named something else, like she's got all the season courts, and then she could have figured out something else for the day and the night court and stuff if she didn't want it to always be day or always be night. So I don't know. I just remembered that, and I was like,
But I'm going to ask Hallie this because she knows about more fairy lore than I. But weren't the seasons, the day, the night, and those, weren't they taken from a folklore, I think?
Yeah.
There's been mentions of once before, so maybe that's why she kept in the day and night court.
Yeah, it depends on the lore you get it from, but I mean, there are some like original tales that have the day and the night court, but that's more of like a more recent thing, I feel like. But I mean,
The summer court.
there's always your 4 main seasons. Those are always courts, and sometimes they'll group like winter and fall together, and spring and summer, because then you get your unseelie and seelie fae and stuff like that gets brought into it. But yeah, no, I feel like it's more recent that I see people doing the night and day court, but I do know there's some lore with it.
Okay, perfect. And so, oh man, it's already been almost 30 minutes that we've talked about this first book. So for, and I say this every live show, I always feel like that we don't ever really get to talk about most things that we want to, but just for, time purposes, we don't want to keep you guys here for 2 hours. We are going to go ahead and move into some final thoughts. So if you guys have anything that you didn't get to mention in the description, feel free to say so. And also if any of the other judges want to kind of like, comment on someone else's final thoughts about this book, definitely please do that. We can spend a couple more minutes on this. I usually start the final thoughts a little bit early just in case there is more discussion that we have. So we will go ahead and start with Allie. Anything else that you want to talk about before we move on to the next one?
Rhysand is bae. That's all I have to say.
I think we can all agree. Maybe. Hopefully most of us, maybe. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll have to ask the rest of the judges. Lisa?
If there's a hot, sexy fairy involved, I'm in.
She's my kind of girl.
Werewolves, nah. Vampires, nah. Fairies,
yes.
And this is actually the very first Fae fairy book that I've enjoyed. I have read like Holly Black's Fae books, and I just couldn't finish any of them. I've read so many wanting to love fairy books, and I just couldn't get into any of them. And so going into ACOTAR, like almost a year after it was released, I was so worried I was going to hate it. But I really, really liked the series. It's the first Fae books that I've really liked. So, yeah, definitely really enjoyed this one. Megan, any final thoughts you want to talk about?
I ended up really liking it. It's giving me some good hope for the rest of the series. So it's definitely a series I'm going to keep reading. And I like it hot, fairy guys.
Yes.
Perfect. And Trina.
Deviating from the hot fairy guys theme, I do also want to point out that of the 3 books in this series, I found this one to be the easiest to read, and I was the most like invested and gripped in it, because sometimes I can find fantasy to be harder to get through for me. Like I feel like, okay, there's so much happening that I have to kind of like take a while to get through it, and this one I just kind of breezed through it, so it was the easiest one to read for me. And I also enjoyed the type of fantasy elements that were included here, with like the fae magic and the threat of the evil ruler, and the royalty and the courts and stuff, and the whole creation story that was here. So I thought it was solid fantasy, had some problems, but really connected with me.
Perfect. So if no one else has anything that they want to comment on, I know we did have one comment about this from Emma, and she said she really liked to see the other places in the world, like the summer court, and she thought that was very interesting. So thank you so much for your comment, Emma. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything about the books that we're talking about, definitely let us know in the chat. But we will go ahead and move on to Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Again, we're going to start with some initial thoughts from everybody. I think this is the most beautiful book. Like if we're literally just talking about like surface initial thoughts, I think this one is gorgeous. And then the colored pages, I'm just dead. I love it so much. This is my favorite book cover of all of the ones that are probably nominated across the board. So
my country doesn't have colored pages.
No.
We'll turn on you.
You're coming. You could potentially get them, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I send you one.
Pages.
That's really sad.
Only you're showing off your colored pages, making me feel bad about myself.
Well, didn't your Lady Midnight have colored pages though?
Nope.
Oh, I thought they did.
Just kidding.
My copies, I think there was some colored pages copies, but my one isn't. I'm just going to sulk in a corner here now.
All right, so we will start with our initial thoughts with Allie once again.
So I finished this morning. So it's very, very fresh. I really loved it. Just this whole world I've always been really like in love with, because I've studied like with the Grisha series. Like I studied Russian culture a lot in my first few years of college. And so like I connected with it easily, and I love that she pulled from like our cultures and put it into a world that like is just so diverse and so just a melting pot of everything. So I really, really love this series.
Perfect. Lisa?
I preferred the duology to the first 3 Grisha books, but they were brilliant building blocks. I think Lee Bardugo has created such a beautiful world in a way. I listened to these books.
Yes.
So I usually listen to it when I was in the bath and relaxing. So I think I think of this world and I think of these really in-depth, just really interesting characters. Like I've never seen a character like Kaz Brecker before. And for me personally, I tweeted Lee Bardugo after I finished Six of Crows, and my tweet was something along the lines of, as someone who walks with a cane, thank you. And she just tweeted back going, you're welcome. Mm-hmm. And I think it was really she really showed how someone can be with a cane, have to use an aid, and can still be frigging kick-ass. So that really resonated with me.
Awesome. And Megan?
I really enjoyed this series too. I'm along the same lines as Lisa, where I preferred this duology over the previous trilogy. It was good for the world building though. I think she's done so much with just 2 books. I'm so attached to this world and characters with just 2 books that it usually takes you 3, 4 or something like that. Like they're drastically long fantasy series. And this was 2 books and she did such a beautiful job with it.
Agreed. And Trina?
Okay.
Oh no, you're the odd man out with like every single book. No.
Right. I did not like this book. Now, listen, I love Lee Bardugo. I think this world was developed so wonderfully. I love the group of characters. This is such a strong fantasy, but there were plot things and that I didn't like about this book that I'm just, sorry, I'm frazzled.
It's okay.
There were some things that I just didn't really didn't enjoy about how things happened in this book. I do think it is the best in terms of the world building, and this is a type of fantasy book that I want to support and promote. It's very diverse. She has just totally nailed that. But there were a couple of lines that I felt were microaggressions towards mental illness that really did not set well with me. And I mean, Lee Bardugo has said that, yes, that happened, and she has apologized for it. So it's not something that I want to hold against her or necessarily the story, but this book in particular, I did not like. But I loved Six of Crows, but yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, see, if I registered those notes, I would have agreed. I would have totally agreed, because problem with me is I do not register a lot of things, and I do recognize that. Yeah. But like, I didn't recognize any microaggressions against mental illness. If I had recognized it, I would have been like, hey. But so many things just go over my head. And then I have these conversations and I'm like, oh, wait.
Wow. It's definitely not the only book that does that. I'm sure that's in the Sarah J. Maas books too, but at the time I read them, I didn't notice it for whatever reason. It's in a ton of books and I don't always notice it. So it's not that I'm saying like this book is worse than all the rest or anything, but my personal experience was it was kind of.
Yeah, and I think, is it the specific word that you're, I think I've seen this where it was crazy, right? Is the specific word that was mentioned at one point in the book, right?
Well, there's a couple of instances. One of them was Kaz says a plan that is very elaborate and a lot has got to go into it. And Nina says, are you mad? Which is synonymous with crazy. And he says, which his is the thing that I didn't like. He says, if I were, I'd be a lot happier, which kind of said to me, like, if you are mad or crazy, that you have less cares in the world or you don't have anything to worry about, that it's just an easy thing. Mm-hmm. And then there's more than that, though. I've got like the pages screenshotted and stuff in my spoilery book talk of it, but on one of the pages they're talking about one of the characters' fathers who has done a lot of evil things, and Jesper specifically says that's not a normal person, he is insane. And it's like, if you're evil, that doesn't mean you have a mental illness, because that kind of just perpetuates that people that do have mental illness are evil and they are the cause of tragedies in the world. Like, why can't this man just be evil and not, why do you have to bring mental illness into it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought it kind of perpetuated some stigmas and stuff.
Yeah, and you know, I'm glad that you said that too, because I remember, I don't know if it was you or someone else on Twitter who was talking about this. I'm pretty sure that it was you. But I remember looking at this conversation that someone on Twitter was having about this book, about those words, and you know, weeks ago. And when I read it over the last like 2 days, like I literally just finished this morning too, I don't remember recognizing that as well. And I think maybe it has something to do with our society and using those words sometimes. Because I mean, I have a mental illness, and I tell people, I was like, you're crazy, you know, all the time. I say stuff like that because it's just like, it's just what we see. Yeah, it's what we see in media, and it's just something, you know, so yeah, I think it's just what we grew up around, and we sometimes say words without even thinking about how they could affect somebody.
It's very ingrained into just the way that we speak these days.
Yeah.
It's definitely not something that I think that Leigh Bardugo set out to, I'm going to offend a bunch of people. I think that it was just ingrained. She definitely did not realize that she was doing it. So again, it's not something I want to hold against her, but it was something that was hurtful to me when I came upon it.
And at least she has gone on Twitter and recognized and apologized for it, unlike some other authors in our nomination list. There's only one more. So anyway, maybe we'll talk about that later. But
all of the other diversity that's represented in this book seems to be done so well. So I don't want that one thing to totally discredit what else that this book is doing. Yeah. I just wanted to point out that was something that stuck with me.
Authors will make mistakes. That's the thing. It's our job to point it out, and it's the author's job to take note of it.
Yeah.
And to admit that, hey, maybe they were wrong here.
Yeah.
But she did. She stood up, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good for her. And so I know Trina and Lisa have both made comments about this specific thing. Did maybe Megan or Ali, did you guys have anything you want to mention about this thing specifically? Did you guys notice this, or?
I didn't really notice it. I mean, I do see how it can be offensive. I didn't notice it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And Ali, same thing?
Yeah, same for me. I didn't really notice it. I was just really pleased with the normalization of, like, with Jesper and Wyland's relationship, like how it was just normal, and it wasn't like being like, oh, hey, this is a big deal. It was just comfortable. It was normal, and I liked that. So that, to me, was something that I noticed more than what Trina picked up on. So
I love Jesper and Wyland so much.
So there was another question that I kind of wanted to talk about. Is there were moments when Kaz kind of, I don't want to say like anti-hero, because I didn't think that this was like put off as like an anti-hero vibe, but there were definitely some moments for me where Kaz said some things that kind of had me put on to like a bad guy vibe. Did you guys pick up on that at all? Or any of the other characters? I mean, these are obviously, they're going on a heist in the first book, and it's kind of something similar now. So I want to kind of get your thoughts on are these good guys? Are they bad guys? Did you pick up on that? Anti-hero, what do you think? We'll start with Ali.
So these characters are very morally ambiguous characters. They're in it for their own gain. They're in a gang for, I mean, they're going to do bad things. They're going to do good things. They're not necessarily good. For me, I kind of look at it from like the very nerdy standpoint of a gamer, and they are like, if you were to take it into like, well, because this is something that I love about characters. I love morally ambiguous characters.
Explain that concept of like chaotic.
Yeah, okay. So whenever you play like a tabletop game like Dungeons and Dragons, you pick an alignment. You can be lawful good. So you follow everything. You are a good character. You will follow laws no matter what. There's chaotic good as well. So these characters do things for their own gain, but it's not necessarily bad things. There's also neutral characters, and then there's evil, and they follow either like chaotic or lawful like tendencies. So I kind of put him in like a neutral chaotic like area. So he's not good, he's not evil, he's in the middle. So that's kind of how I view a lot of characters. Like, they're not going to be, you know, black and white. And she plays along that line of moral ambiguity. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. So. I guess for me specifically, there was one moment where Kaz is talking to a little girl. And I'm not sure if you guys remember exactly what, but I was just like, I love that.
Traumatizing.
No, I hated it. And I guess I'm a teacher, and I deal with little children all the time, and so I'm just like imagining what's going through this little girl's head, and it really bothered me, that specific part, at least of this book. So I guess again we'll go ahead and ask everyone else's opinions on that too.
Just the fact you're a teacher and you hated that, and I'm a teacher and I love that. That's does that bode badly for my future students? That the traumatizing of a child scene I enjoyed. Okay.
Megan, did you want to say anything about maybe
Yes,
more
I did.
ambiguous characters?
Kaz is a bad. He's an evil. I would say he's more evil than a good character, and I like that we have a character like that because no one is just this bad character all the time. This person that doesn't follow the laws, that kind of follows their own set of laws. And I like that she never changed him. That's just who he is. Take it or leave it. You could not like that he does his own thing all the time. And I like that she didn't change him by the end, that he was still doing that. He still is like, I have stuff to finish in Ketterdam, and he's just going to go on being evil. It's just Kaz's record.
Totally. I get that. And
I don't think he's good or bad. I think he's just human.
Yeah.
No
he has
human
good
is
moments.
good or bad. Like, I'm
does
not a
have
good
good
person or a bad person. I have my good moments, I have my bad moments. And that's what makes a character so real, is that they are not a hero. They are literally a person who will look out for themselves. Very few people will look out for someone else above themselves. Frankly, if me and my other half were drowning, I'd probably save myself first, because that's just human nature in a way.
Same.
He's stronger than me. He can swim himself out.
all right. And Trina, your thoughts?
I agree that I think he is just a human character. I wouldn't call him either a hero or a villain because I don't think that they're setting out to like save the world or destroy the world. They're just setting out to do something for their gang. Well, they kind of get wrapped up in something that could possibly save the world, but I think that they're doing it for reasons of their own. So I wouldn't call him an anti-hero, but I would call him morally gray. And I do think that Leigh Bardugo set out to write him with both good and bad qualities. I think that Megan and I went and saw her at a book signing in our town, and I think that she specifically said she meant to write him like that, so that sometimes you might question what he's doing and wonder, you know, really where his priorities lie. But I think that he is a very complex, all of them were very complex characters, and I felt like I did understand them.
Okay, perfect. And then the last question that I had for you guys before we move on to final thoughts is, this is the last book in a duology, and I wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts on how you felt like this ended. Did it wrap up this series well?
I wanted to talk about this.
Perfect. Yay. I asked good questions. Okay. So yes, what you guys thought about with the ending and if this wrapped up the series really well. Has Leigh Bardugo said she's writing, I think she's writing another book in the series, right?
Novellas.
Yeah, okay. So I'm excited about that, and I want to get your guys' thoughts. So we'll start with Allie.
I need more because I love this world. I felt like she left some endings open, like so she can maybe come back and revisit it, and that's what I'm hoping, because there's some things that I need to happen, and maybe she'll do that in the novellas, but we'll see. I like the ending. I thought it was fitting, but I felt like I still wanted more.
Okay. And Lisa?
I do want more of this world, but I am very pleased that it was wrapped up in 2 books in a way. Because I feel like when an author does that, there's so much can be lost in a middle book in a trilogy. Mm-hmm. So many times, like the second book in a trilogy is just like filler. But when it's a duology, I like it so much more. Even though I'm still kind of going, I want more of this world, I'm still happy it's a duology. Okay. It's a very weird place to be in.
Yeah.
But I don't.
And then Megan?
I'm along the same lines. Like, I want more, but I do see that, like, she did wrap it up in a good way for the 2 books, but she left enough things open that she left things open in Grisha that she kind of pulled into this series and had some characters in this duology introduced again, that I feel like if she did another series, she could still maybe pull some of our characters from Ketterdam into that series. And maybe we'll be in a different part of the world, because Grisha was more Russian-based. She said this duology was like Mongolian-based. Maybe we're going to be somewhere else, and she's going to pull some of these people again. I just think she left it open so that she could do more with it in another series, and I really hope she does.
All right. And then Trina, I know you were excited to talk about this.
I do feel like she has said that she's not done with this world yet. Like, aside from the novellas that were just announced, I think she's going to write more in it. And I think the world is definitely developed so well that she can, because there's all these different nations and all this history between the people from these nations. I do think that the length was fine. I don't feel like I needed more from this specific plot and set of characters. I mean, I would take more if we ended up getting a third book following them. But I kind of felt like the ending, I didn't feel fulfilled by the ending of this, because some things I felt happened out of nowhere. Maybe that was a point. If it was, that's fine, but I didn't enjoy it. And some things then towards the end just kind of wrapped up really quickly. And I don't know, I feel like maybe the different heist type things that they were doing throughout the two series, like they were unrelated enough to where in the end, I don't know, it just didn't have a huge impact on me. So I wasn't that fulfilled by it, but I don't think we need more, but I would take more if that was going to happen.
Yeah. I would definitely.
Can I ask, like, I know you like Jesper and Wylan. Is it like Kaz and Inesh's end that you didn't like as much, or is it
I didn't like
character-based or plot-based? I guess.
both. I didn't like Nina and Matthias's ending.
No, I want that to be different.
I lost it.
Yeah.
Just to give you an
didn't
idea, I
have-
squealed in the bath when I listened to it, and my other half thought I'd injured myself and ran because I
just-
squealed out loud.
It's a moment that a lot of people have said like they had a reaction to. I didn't feel connected to it at all, because I felt like it honestly came out of nowhere. Like, things happened to them, to their specific threads, that weren't related to hardly anything else happening that was happening in this book. And so to me, I was just like, really, why? Why did that need to happen? What did that accomplish? And then the fact that no one really knew things, and I was like, I don't know, I just felt so unsatisfied for this group of characters. I don't mind that the thing happened that did. I just didn't like why.
See, and I had this whole feeling, like, about halfway through where I actually got the feeling that someone was going to die. Like, I knew someone out of these characters was going to die, because I just was getting this feeling from what they were doing. So
Yeah.
it wasn't as much, I don't know, I knew someone was going to die. I didn't feel like his did kind of come out of nowhere, because he gets through this whole big thing, and then it's
You
just
just
like,
spoiled it.
what?
You spoiler!
It's okay.
What do you mean?
A little bit of a spoiler.
How do we not spoil this without talking about it?
Well, I mean, we're gonna try our hardest not to spoil.
What did I say?
Said the bad word.
She didn't say who though.
Yeah, you didn't say who.
All right.
So I mean, stuff happens. So it's done, and we all know. Yeah, we'll move on.
Well,
It's okay.
We were talking about specific characters, so I felt to go on to what Megan said, I did know that something was going to happen. I expected that to happen. I had heard some community reactions, so like I kind of knew what was going to happen, and I knew who it was going to be. But still, how it came about, I was just like, really, that was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
no,
all.
how it happened, I can agree with that. Like, I felt like it was just kind of like it was kind of random a little bit. Like, no, I can completely see that.
It did kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's all I mean, yeah.
It wasn't. I felt like it should have been a more fitting, ending for a person. Like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
I've heard an interview though with Lee Bardugo, and I'll link it to you guys later. But the way she explains about why she did it, I'm dropping things. Why she did it that way, she said it was by a younger reflection of Matthias, if that makes sense. And I'll have to link the entire thing, so I can give you loads of spoilers.
Yeah, it was explained in his past or something.
So that is the way she did it. I'll have to link the article to you guys after this.
Yeah.
So I can spoil everything, but I liked how she explained it and why she felt she wanted to do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Send it. I want to read it.
All right. So now that everyone has commented a bit on that, then we'll go through and do some final thoughts. If anyone has anything else that they would like to say that didn't get mentioned in the discussion, we'll start with Allie.
I don't think so. I think I said everything I needed to. Jesper and Wylan were like my life. So
Perfect. And Lisa?
I just love Kath Brecker as a character. I love a character that can be a total douchebag
Yes.
and traumatize children.
Oh my goodness. Okay, and Megan?
I really like the series, and I want to talk a little bit about Kaz and Nadej because I just really enjoyed their relationship. I loved the tension and the slow burn the entire time. I really still liked. I guess I can't say anything. I can't say anything about the end really because spoilers. Well, I liked the way that ended. I'll just say that didn't feel like a complete end to me, but I liked that they're doing what each other wants to do and they're not holding each other back. In a sense, I guess.
Sounds good. And then Trina.
Oh, I didn't realize it was my turn. So overall, I gave this one 3 stars because I was very middle of the road about it. It had some things that upset me and some things that I just didn't feel fulfilled about. I do think there's a lot of wonderful things about it, though. Of the 3 books in this category, it had the best world building, in my opinion. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that I did feel like this one was the hardest for me to read. There's something about her narration that I didn't like. I felt like it was preventing me from really connecting with the characters. I love these characters, and I wanted to be in their heads, but so often a scene where one character was doing something would be narrated from someone else that was just kind of looking on. And I wish it had been narrated by the character actually being active in the scene so that we could have gotten to know their thoughts and stuff. So it was the hardest one for me to kind of connect with, but best world building, in my opinion, of the 3.
Okay, perfect. And then that leaves us for our final book, which is Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. This book is so heavy. Like, I feel like Crooked Kingdom is longer, but lighter than this book. It's so heavy. Like, the pages are so heavy. I literally had to, like, put it down and rest stuff on the pages in order to hold it. It was really hard to read this book because it was so heavy. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Sorry. So then we will get started with our initial thoughts for what you guys think of Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. The only author to be nominated in more than one category, and the only author to get two books nominated in the same category. So definitely something to say about that. And we will hear your guys' thoughts now. So we will start with Allie.
I really liked it. It's definitely not my favorite of the Throne of Glass books, I felt like. But I liked it. I feel like it's a necessary bridge for the last book. But it was neat to see all the characters coming together. That was my favorite part of it.
Perfect. Lisa?
Just to keep this very simply, I was intoxicated pretty much when I read this because I just couldn't get through it. I really struggled, and I ended up having a few glasses of rum to ease the way because I just don't get along with this series. And there are several reasons why, which I will probably discuss throughout this live show.
Now, just a word of warning for our viewers. Make sure you read and drink responsibly. If you are going to decide to drink and read, do it responsibly.
Don't follow Lisa's ideas. Don't follow my ideas. I'm not even full out myself yet. Don't follow me.
All right, and Megan?
I am still so conflicted with my feelings on this book because I have liked this series so much until actually this book. My favorite in the series was Queen of Shadows, and I felt a big disconnect in the whole feeling and characters and writing style with this book versus the beginning of the series. So I'm still very conflicted with this book. I did mostly enjoy it. I did very much enjoy it, but I still have this weird feeling with it.
Yeah. Okay. And then Trina?
This is a series that I have enjoyed from the start. I've been reading them since the first one came out, and I did like this one as an installment in the series. I think that I like this type of fantasy, but I was very disappointed in just how she has this big world, and you know it's a big world, but she just fails to add in certain parts of the world that I really wanted to see come back around and stuff. So I don't know. I like it as a fantasy, but it's got problems.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so something that I really wanted, and I think it's fair to do this because both books are both books are nominated in this genre, so maybe or in this category, so maybe we'll talk about a little bit of both Akamath and this one. But the differences in the fae or the magical creatures in this story, I just felt like the ones in Akamath were like so much better than this one, and I kind of just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the people in general and their magical abilities, or the magic system in this world in general, or anything you guys have to comment about the magic system. I'd really like to know your opinions, because I was a little bit disappointed in it. Even though this is the 5th book in the series, I still felt like it's lacking, even though it could have had so much information in the 5 books that we've had on it. And so we'll start with Allie.
As far as like the magic system and everything, I do think that Akamath, it's more like that setting, that whole book world is more filled with it. Whereas I feel like with the Throne of Glass series, it's been, because there was such a fear behind all of it, it's been suppressed and put down, so it's not as like prominent in it, I feel like, because, you know, for a while they couldn't even do magic or whatever because of those tower things. But, you know, like I feel like a lot of that has been pushed off to maybe show that, but I don't know. Like I definitely do think that it's not as prominent and as big of a thing with it, but I like it. I feel like I definitely do like the Akamath magic and everything like that much better though.
Okay, fair enough. And Lisa, if I know you had commented too, and maybe you can mention this a little bit about how you felt like the first 2 books were like maybe even in a different series than the last 3 books. If you want to comment on that and the magic system, because I think it has a lot to do with the magic system and our main character in this instance. So
I have never gotten past, before this award show, I never got past halfway through book 2. I have always thought of this series as humans with a little bit of magic on the side, like the warlocks. And that's what I came to know this series as. Usually you know within a book and a half if this book is going to be a fairy book. But then I read through the entire series and book 3 comes along. All of a sudden it's more about fairies, and the main character has a name change. They stop calling her Selena and start calling her Aelin. And I just felt such a disjoint. And that's one of the things that drove me nuts. I was like, I started an entire other series around book 3 with the name change and all of a sudden impact on fairies. She also had a new love interest. It was literally a whole new series. But in a way I can understand that, because she's trying to show how the character developed, but it was so jarring for me that from book 3 onwards, I just wasn't that interested, because I went into it expecting a human book with a bit of magic on the side, and I didn't expect everyone to turn up being fairies. Like, I didn't expect it, and it didn't come along in a good way. It came in too late in the game to build the magical world effectively. So
Okay.
I just feel like it wasn't done well enough, because we were led to expect one thing in the first 2 books, and then it felt very different from book 3 onwards.
all right, and then Megan.
Wait, what exactly are we? What was the question?
I mean, anything that you have that you can, anything that you kind of want. My questions are more like leading questions to move into a discussion. So anything about the, differences in the Fae between the 2 Sarah J. Maas books that were nominated, or your opinion on the magic system or the Fae and the magic, and anything like that, if you want to comment on that.
Okay. I do like the magic more so in the Akamath Akatar series, because I think, as along the lines that Lisa's saying, she started out with it that way. She did kind of, I never thought about it this way until you just said that, and she does kind of jump with this series a lot, because you do think it's going to be something different in the first ones, and then there are fairies thrown in, and then I feel like book 3 and 4, those are my favorite, because they were so politically, there was all this political stuff going on, and all of this intrigue with that, and all these plot twists happening, and just these big political things happening, that when, like, this last book just really got to me, because I feel like that wasn't in there as much. There was completely, now it felt like the Akatar series, because she has a lot more sexy times than the rest of the series. She had it a lot more vividly than the rest of the Throne of Glass series, which I wasn't expecting. I expect it with the Akatar series, because book 1 was like that. But with this series, it was like book 1 and 2 were about a human girl with a little bit of magic, and then we got a bunch of fairies and cool political intrigue, and then we got all over the place, lots of sexy times, not as much political stuff happening, and it does feel very all over the place.
Yeah, and I
So
you know, I like.
I'm very conflicted with this book.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think I'll get to Trina in 1 second, but I'm glad that you said it was a girl with a little bit of magic and then fairies in the third, fourth, and fifth book, because I almost feel like Selena and Aelin are literally two completely different characters, and I really wanted them. I really want Aelin, Aelin, I think is how you pronounce it. I really wanted her to kind of like have the same type of personality as Selena, but I just feel like they're so different, and I wanted. Selena to kind of, use her past experiences to influence her character, and vice versa with Aelin, and I just didn't feel like I got that at all. So I'm kind of glad that you mentioned that as well, because I just felt like they were just so different and so different characters and very different books. But we'll go ahead and go with Trina's perspective on that as well.
To expand on the thing about the series changing over time, that is actually what I have enjoyed so much about this series. I love when a fantasy book will start you out with a limited scope, and then as it goes along, not only does the character grow, but they start learning more about the world, and then the world grows. And that's I have really enjoyed the progress in this book. And this is a very traditional type of fantasy, in my opinion. Like, book 3 is basically like her training book, and she does undergo a lot of change, and that's also part of her personality change. But I didn't mind that. I thought that's a very kind of a classic fantasy trope where the character has to go through a lot of training and then come out basically changed. So I didn't mind that. And let's see, I've got some notes here. I don't know. What I like about the Fae in this world, other than Akamath, is that this is a world with Fae and humans and witches. And I think I really enjoy how I'm seeing all three of these different races like interacting together, and all of the political stuff, like Megan said, behind all of their continents and their countries and stuff. I've really enjoyed that dynamic. I don't know if I prefer one of her series over the other in terms of the Fae and the magic. I do think that Empire of Storms did have a lot of similarities, start getting very similar to the ACOTAR series, though. But I kind of just see the Fae as the same. They just live in different places.
Okay, fair enough. And
I do like the witches, too. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do really like the witches, too. Like, Manon's character, she's one of my favorites now, even maybe a little bit more than Aelin. I really like Manon. I tend to find myself, with the end of this series, getting, like, Queen of Shadows is my favorite, but getting to EOS, I find myself liking the other characters sometimes a little bit more than her. Now, for the continuing of the last book, I'm more intrigued in some of their plot lines. More so.
Yeah. I found myself sometimes skim reading Aelin's sections and like really getting into Manon's sections, which I'm really glad you guys talked about Manon, because I kind of wanted to get into all of the other characters too, because I, like Trina said, this is a very fantasy. There are different perspectives and we go back and forth. Like, I feel like this is the young adult Game of Thrones, if there ever was one, other than What's Her Face's series, Morgan Rhodes' series. These are both very Game of Thrones with all the different perspectives and things like that. And so for me, though, there was something that it was just, there were so many different characters and so many different allegiances. It was hard for me to keep track who supported who or who was on whose side and stuff. And I kind of, especially with Manon, like I was really confused as to whose side she was on for a little while, but I think it went back and forth. Yeah. So I think I realized that by the end, but it was a little confusing for me, all the different perspectives and all the different characters. And some of the characters have such similar names, especially when I skim read Aelin's, I would get Aelin and Aiden confused because they look similar when I would skim read. So I had to like go back and reread, and that's more of my fault. But I wanted to get your guys' perspectives on the other characters and the other perspectives and what you guys thought of those. And we'll start with Allie.
I loved all the characters. Like, I love all the differing perspectives, especially in this one. You get to see more into like the other side of like everything with like Lorcan and everything. Like, I loved his chapters, and it's so funny because I hated him so much, but then I ended up like loving him. He was one of my favorite characters. And then like I don't know. I just like all the different perspectives coming in, and it was really satisfying in this book seeing everything come together, like everybody meeting each other, and like when everybody's actually together, I was like, I can't handle this right now. I need to set it down for a little bit. This is like kind of fangirl moment that like people are meeting each other. It's like I'm there. So I liked all the characters. Manon is amazing. So
yeah, perfect. And then Lisa?
I was kind of the opposite. I tended to focus on Aelin and skim Manon because I feel like I'd gotten invested in Aelin's storyline. This is what I was reading, and because I got so disinterested around book 3 and 4, I was skimming Manon's more because she was introduced in book 3. And at this point, I was just kind of like, I don't really want a new character here. I'm just going to skim a bit more because I was now invested in Aelin or Selena or whatever you were calling her. And because my brain was not invested into this book, I found myself skimming a lot of the other characters. Aiden pulled me right in. I really liked him. But if you've got to be stupidly really invested into these worlds, if there's so many characters, you've got to be really interested in the outcome. And as someone, I'm the kind of person that I'm a fast reader, and if I'm not getting along with a book, I put it down. Like if I'm not sucked into a book within a day or two, it gets put down. And this series would have been put down multiple times over by me. So I did find myself skimming a lot. And there were days I messaged Elizabeth like, I hate this so much. So.
And you're not the only one. I had judges all across the board messaging me talking about, why did you make me do this? with lots of different books.
And EOS were nearly neck and neck at one point. And I was messaging Elizabeth like, please, Lady Midnight, please, Lady Midnight. And the minute she messaged me to tell me it was Empire of Storms and that I had to read the entire series, I died inside a little.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as you. I had only read like half of Crown of Midnight when the voting had ended, so I had to read the rest. I reread Crown of Midnight and then the rest of the books too. So I had to it was a beast to get through. Like it was something.
It was like 600 pages.
Yeah.
EOS alone, plus Queen of Shadows, plus that's the equivalent of like 10 books I would usually read.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. All right, Megan.
I really, really love side characters. I really love Dorian. I loved him. I loved him since book 1. I loved him so much. I do not like him with Selena. I just love him as his own character.
You like him with you.
I like him with me. Dorian is seriously like my number 1 book boyfriend. I just like Dorian a lot. I really loved Manon in and oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the books right here. Okay, in Heir of Fire, I really liked when she did get introduced. I like those characters that are, I don't know, she's kind of a little bit Casper-y. I mean, she is on her own agenda. She finds out so much about herself. She gets so much character growth by EOS, and I just love it. I'm so excited to see her end game like the most. I'm really excited to see where she goes at the end of this series the most, and I just think she's very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, and Lysandra. The Lysandra perspectives are really cool, especially when she is like in her weird like sea dragon form. Yeah, that was really cool to have.
Yeah.
So thinking back for me, like I'm just thinking about it now, but I think one of the reasons I didn't connect with this series is the number of love interests. And this is very specific to me because, as a few of you guys know, I dated one boy my entire life who was my first kiss. I'm still with the idiot. And when there's multiple ones, there is Sam, there is Dorian, there is Kale. I always call him Kale, like the young plant. And
I think that is how you pronounce it, isn't it?
I remember her saying she wanted to be like chaos. But
it's Kale. It's supposed to sound like chaos, but with an L. That's what she said at her signing.
Yeah, she said that at my signing. So I think she said that every signing just because no one understands how you say his name. But I get quite disconnected to books that you don't meet the main love interest in the first book. Because like I get attached to the characters in the first book and I feel like, yeah. But that's just a very weirdly specific me thing. Because everyone else, usually, it's quite normal to have 5 or 6 relationships in your life. I'm just a weird freak. And so I get disconnected very easily because of that. Which I've only just realised, like right now, had an epiphany.
And then, did I get to
Trina.
No.
Trina? Okay, yeah. I was like, did I go through everybody? I don't remember. Trina.
Just
yeah.
butting in like a rude person.
No,
Going off of
okay.
the romances thing, I do love that there are multiple relationships. I know some people don't have multiple relationships, but I have had more relationships than I can count on both hands. And I love watching characters process moving on and then opening up to another relationship after they know what, like, all that goes into it, you know. But I also really love that feeling of first love too. So I like both of them. So I like series that, you know, explain both kind of. So I don't have a problem with that. For the rest of the characters, I love this group of characters the most out of the 3 books nominated because they all come from such different backgrounds. And they didn't all start out like on the same team, or not all of them started out as enemies either. It's just such a mix. And I have really enjoyed the whole dynamic between them. The biggest disappointment that I have had, particularly in Empire of Storms, is where the heck are Nehemia's people? Where are they? We know that this is a diverse world, and why is she not adding those characters in? Because we know that they're there, and they just like, they don't care what happened to their daughter, you know, like she needed to add that in. So that's the only thing I was really disappointed about in the characters. And then I guess the only character thing I could say is the only one that I don't understand is Maeve and her whole group. I don't understand everything about how they're coming into play with, like, I know what the cadre and everything are, but whatever's happening in her continent, that's what I'm most confused about. But other than that, I love the main group of characters.
Perfect. And then, does someone have someone talking in the background? Is this just me?
I'm in the library. I'm in a private study room, and I swear to God, the room next to me, people are shouting. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
You're in the library?
Oh my goodness.
I'm in my university library in a private disability access study room, and I can literally hear the other people in the disability study room, individual study room, screeching. I apologise on that. Is it really loud?
That's crazy. I mean, it kind of just sounds like it's like in the background. That's insane. I would take a broom and just like bang on the window.
I know. I'd be like banging on the door, be like, shut
When
up.
I'm not on a live chat, I would call security. That's what I usually do. I just call up to the front desk because I'm on the bottom floor, on the ground. I just call to security, and then they come down and shoot them out.
If it becomes more of a problem, girl, I'd do it because it's the library. You gotta be quiet at the library.
But this floor is the silent floor as well. This is why we have individual rooms, because this is the quiet floor.
Some people
Can I make a
That's
comment?
it.
Can I make the comment that I like what you pointed out, Trina, that they didn't all start out on the same side, and that they did all come from so much different backgrounds, and so it's a lot different than the other books that we're talking about, their whole group of characters.
Awesome. So we're getting about to a little over an hour now for the live show. So I did want to ask our final thoughts, but something that I wanted to ask with each one of these books, because this is fantasy and world building is a really important part of that. So if you guys have any final thoughts specifically, or anything that you would like to say specifically about the Lisa's like giving the death stare to the wall.
I'm not just like, one sec.
Oh my God, now they're laughing. I'm so sorry. Okay. So anyway, yes, I want to, we'll ask each person individually about your thoughts on the world building or any other final thoughts that you have on this book, and then we'll move on to the voting. So we will start with Allie.
I'm glad that Trina pointed this out because I agree with her. I like with the world how it started off really small, and then like as it's gone, it's grown, and you've kind of grown with like the characters as they're finding out more about this world. So I do really agree with her on that. Like that's one of my favorite aspects with it is like how small it was and how big it's become. So I like the world. I think it's neat to see all these different types of races come together, like with the witches and the humans and the fae. And I'm really interested to see how it's going to all come together in the final book. So I really liked it.
Awesome. Lisa?
What was the question again? I was busy throwing a pencil case.
World building.
Okay. Yeah, either world building or any other final thoughts that you want to mention about this book, because afterwards we're going to move on to the voting.
This book in particular?
Empire of Storms, yes.
In all fairness, I didn't take in much of the world building in this book just because I was quite skimming and other factors were included, mainly rum. But yeah, I just can't connect with the world building because I invested in the world building of the first book, and I feel like if there should have been the introduction. Like, I understand the whole fantasy, you go through this big change kind of thing, but I feel like it should have happened earlier on, not in book 3.
Okay.
So I feel like I couldn't get invested in the world building.
Yeah. Megan?
I'm still so conflicted on this book that hasn't changed throughout this discussion. There's so much that I love about it because I do love this series as a whole. I just love it so much, and it's grown so much. There's a lot of change. There's so much that has happened. So I feel like part of me wants to just really love this book more, but I still just have problems with it. So I'm just so conflicted.
Yeah. And then Trina?
I'm going to compare like these 3 books in this category again in terms of fantasy elements and stuff. I do think that this is one of the bigger worlds. I think the Six of Crows world is also large, but Lee Bardugo utilized diverse elements of that world and its history much better. I wish that this book would do that better, but I do love all of the different political things behind it and how vast of a world it is. And in terms of fantasy, this is the series of these 3 that has the most traditional fantasy elements that I enjoy. It has like prophecy and ancestry and war, and it has the chosen one trope, which I know a lot of people don't enjoy, but I like how it's done a lot of times, so I don't mind it. It has the training process. It has twists and turns and secret identities and political things and different races. And so fantasy elements, this one is my favorite in terms of those elements.
Sorry, Trina, you broke out there for a second. Different what?
Different races, like the different countries and places in this world.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Perfect. So we will go to Lisa's muted her microphone. Is it because of the people? They're ridiculous.
My races, I do want to point out that I mean like human, witches, and fae, not like actual diversity, which has not been implemented as much in this series.
Perfect. All right. So now that we have discussed all of the books, let me make sure that we do not have any comments from the chat really quick. We do not. And if any of you guys check out the viewer's choice link below, because we will vote and then I will announce the winner of the viewer's choice. So this is the last chance to vote in that. The link is in the description. So we will go ahead and start with Allie, and who you decided to pick as the winner for the Young Adult Book Awards for Fantasy 2016.
Crooked Kingdom. Yep. That's my winner.
Awesome. Okay, sounds good. So we have 1 vote for Crooked Kingdom by Lee Bardugo, and then we will move on to Lisa.
You can already guess what it is, can't you, Elizabeth? You know me.
I think so.
I think everyone who knows me knows that for some reason, I can't even pinpoint myself, I just really love Akamath. I wish I could give like a long list of reasons why I love it, but for some reason I'm just oddly attached and adore it, which means it's doing something right. So I'll vote for that one.
Okay, so 1 vote for Crooked Kingdom and 1 vote for Akamath, and then we have, it goes to Megan. Crooked Kingdom.
I really love it.
Okay.
I love all of these, but yeah, Crooked Kingdom.
All right, sounds good. And then our final and last vote goes to Trina.
So I don't really want to vote for any of the 3 books, but this is what the viewers nominated and put into this category. I don't really feel comfortable with voting for a Sarah J. Maas book, knowing that her books have caused so much hurt to people. Although her books are my favorite out of these 3, and I have had a lot of healing from one of them. So my personal favorites would have been one of hers, but I didn't like Crooked Kingdom, and I feel like if I voted for it, that would kind of be a lie. But I want Crooked Kingdom to win because I think that we should support books like this, and I want more books that are diverse and do have well built up worlds and stuff like this in the fantasy genre. So there are 2 votes for Crooked Kingdom so far, and I kind of don't really want to contest that. So I kind of just want to either forfeit or just let it be with Crooked Kingdom because I'm totally okay with it winning.
Okay, so if Trina has decided not to vote, then what would happen is I would take her place as a vote. and I would vote for Akamath as well, which would lead 2 votes for A Court of Mist and Fury and 2 votes for Crooked Kingdom. And then the way to break that tie is we go to the viewer's choice, and I already have that pulled up. And the winner with 56.3% of the vote is, let me grab it. 56. Oh, now I'm dropping stuff. Okay, so the winner with 56.3 of the vote in the viewer's choice category is Crooked Kingdom. So Crooked Kingdom is the winner of the fantasy category for this one. Lisa's like, I loved all of these books, so I am okay with any. Well, Empire of Storms is. I would have rather it would have been Crooked Kingdom or Akamath for me. So I'm happy with the way that this turned out, and all of us voted for. At least most of us voted for this one. So I think we're all pretty happy with the way that this turned out. Maybe not, Lisa. Are you happy? Are you okay?
I know, I love, and don't get me wrong, I friggin' love that duology. It's just for some reason Akamath resonates with me so much. There's a reason I voted for it. But no, if I was talking about a book in its own right, and as a book and as it's constructed, I would say Crooked Kingdom, but I just can't betray my Akamath. It's a really big show.
I feel you, we got you.
Yeah, and that's.
Oh, amen.
And that's kind of how I instructed the judges to vote as well. I mean, this awards was people, our viewers nominated, and it was important to me that we took half and half. The construction and the world building and the writing style and the plot of the books, and also I wanted your personal opinion as well. Did you personally enjoy this? And so I liked that most of the judges, or all of the judges, were pretty able to take both of those things and decide on their vote with both of those things in mind, the construction and how well the book was written and their personal enjoyment of it as well. So I'm really glad that Crooked Kingdom won. So now that we have done that, and I was able to announce the viewer's choice, which was Crooked Kingdom, and I think second place was, let me look. Second place was, with 35% of the vote, was A Court of Mist and Fury, and then 7% of the vote was Empire of Storms. So I think Empire of Storms is also a little bit harder to vote on too, because maybe a lot of the viewers haven't read the 5th book in a series. It takes a lot of commitment to get to that, to read that many books in a series. So yes. So now we're going to move on to the winners of the giveaway. So for my giveaway, which is I hosted sponsored the fantasy giveaway, you are going to win a copy of Crooked Kingdom or Six of Crows, whichever one you don't have. If you don't have Six of Crows, I'll send that to you. Or if you want Crooked Kingdom, whatever you want. And the winner of my giveaway, her name is Rachel T. So I won't say your last name, but T is your last initial, and I will be emailing you after the live show to let you know if you've won, Rachel. And then we also had 2 giveaways for you to win any book that won. So you have 8 choices. You could win Crooked Kingdom. You could win, what else won? Heartless won. Girl by not Marissa Meyer, Meredith Russo won. So any of the 8 winners, you can choose between, these 2 winners can choose between any of those 8 books that you want. So the first one, what is that noise? Is that me?
I just swallowed some water.
Oh no,
No, it's like a.
There it goes. It's gone. Okay. Sorry. It was like snowy. I didn't know what the heck that was. Okay. So April from April Sarah sponsored our first giveaway for your choice of any book. And the winner of that one is Grace C. And then Alyssa from Pucks and Paperbacks sponsored our second winner for you can choose any book of the winners. And her name is Maggie. And I guess I didn't get a last name from Alyssa, but her YouTube name is Maggers Ann. So you are the winner of the any book from Pucks and Paperbacks. So if you guys are the winners, let me know down in the comments below. Me, April, and Alyssa are all going to be emailing you guys to let you know that you have won. So congratulations to you guys. Again, congratulations to Crooked Kingdom. And usually I give this time to talk to you guys about the rest of the giveaways or the rest of the live shows, but it's it. It's all over. It's kind of really sad. I mean, I'm glad it's over. Now I get like a 3-month break before I have to plan 2017.
3 months,
Allie
not
missed
3
it.
days.
Allie, she said she's sad.
Oh, I miss it. TT.
What?
Sorry.
Korean stuff.
Oh, I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
The K-pop people are going nuts.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's everything. Make sure you guys check out the links below for our amazing judges. Thank you guys so much for judging this category and being here and giving us all of your thoughts. I appreciate it. Thank you to the viewers as well for joining us for the live show. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I have something else that I need to say, but I
The feedback form.
yes, see Trina, what would I do without you?
What would we all do without Trina?
Right?
She's like the only
You
one
would
of us
not
that's
have such
actually
a
put
controversial
together.
live show.
She's like actually very put together in like all her thoughts, all her
Yes.
memories. She's like the one true adult out of all of us.
True fact.
I am probably older than all of you, so maybe that's.
I'm pretty old.
Oh wait, I think maybe you are. I'm 25. Are you older than me?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's
What?
okay though.
Just
What?
kidding.
What did you say? I missed it. Someone
No,
said
it's
something.
good.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so yes, the feedback form. So down in the description below is a link to the feedback form for the award. So I want all of you guys to fill it out, give me your thoughts, what you guys thought of, how we did the awards. There's a bunch of questions for you guys to fill out, and I would greatly appreciate you guys answering any or all of the questions that you can, so that we can make the 2017 awards better. And I'd really love all of your feedback. So the link is down below, like I said. Also check out all the other links for the judges, and all the links for the past live shows too are down there as well. So if you guys missed any of the live shows and you want to go check back them and read or watch what all the judges' thoughts are on the past live shows, those links are down below as well. And I think that is everything. So thank you again, judges. Thank you again, viewers. And
Thank you for having us.
yeah,
Thank you for setting it up.
no problem. And I will see you guys next year for the 2017 awards. Bye.
Bye.